Okay, I'm gonna get this out up front. I know that many of you probably aren't going to agree with my opinion on this topic, and that's okay. I hope you still watch the video though. You're always welcome to leave your comments below in the comments section. Everyone's opinion matters, even if you don't agree with me. So, let's jump right in. I think we'd all agree that professional sports is an insanely competitive field. There's an opportunity for not only the athletes to make tons of money, but those involved with managing and handling the leagues can also make millions and sometimes even billions. When it comes to pro sports, there's usually one league that dominates the sport. For example, it is the English Premier League as the primary soccer league in the UK, and it is the NBA as a primary basketball league in the United States. And of course, we all know that the NFL is the primary football league here in the US. Football is considered to be the most watched sport on TV in the US. And I'm confident that if anyone says the word football, you would automatically think of the NFL. This widely popular league has existed and dominated the sports since 1920, but now it finally has a worthy competitor in the form of the reincarnated Extreme Football League, better known as the XFL. Chapter 1: Introduction to the XFL. For those of you who may not know much about the XFL, here's a quick rundown. The XFL is a professional American football league consisting of 8 teams. Its seasons run during the winter and spring months. Each team plays a 10-game regular season before progressing to the playoffs to crown a season champion. The XFL was originally founded by WWE CEO Vince McMahon in 1999, with its inaugural season in 2001. The first night the season aired, the ratings were off the charts, and viewership exceeded expectations of NBC, who was a co-owner of the league at the time. Unfortunately, ratings plummeted for future games. Fans complained about the quality of the game, the presentation, and the fact that it was closely affiliated with the WWE. In that first season, both WWE and NBC lost $35 million of the $100 million they invested in, at which time NBC exited the partnership. Fast forward to 2020, and the league has now a new owner, Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock, and his partners. I think the league is in much better hands, but unfortunately the 2020 season got cut short due to COVID-19. We'll have to wait another season to see if the XFL can get off the ground and find success, as I'm confident it can. I know that many of us who grew up watching the NFL may still prefer it due to the nostalgic value and the legacy associated with the league and their favorite teams. That being said, I believe there are plenty of reasons to start watching the XFL over the NFL. Obviously, NFL fans are going to argue that their league is better of the two, but let's take a quick look at why I think that opinion is worth reconsidering. If you think I'm crazy, stick with me, and feel free to weigh in after you finish watching the video. Chapter 2: The rules make more sense. First of all, in my opinion, the rules of the XFL are better. They are quite different from those of the NFL, but they just make sense. The XFL has implemented some major rule changes that also make the game more interesting. Here are 3 major rules of the XFL that differ from the NFL. The kickoff. Over the past few years, we've seen the NFL change its kickoff rules to reduce the chances of injury. On one hand, it has provided a degree of safety to the players, and on the other hand, it has made the kickoff somewhat less exciting. XFL seems to have aced the kickoff game. I'll explain how the kickoff works in the XFL. When a team lines up for a kickoff, the alignment can be confusing for longtime football fans because all of the players, except for the kicker, line up beyond the line of scrimmage. The kicking team lines up on the return side 35-yard line, while the return team lines up at its own 30-yard line. Those players cannot move until the punt returner catches the kick. The short starting distance ensures minimum collisions between the two sides, and also this style of kickoff requires greater strategizing skills, making the entire sequence way more exciting and unpredictable for the players and the fans. In short, XFL has been able to make kickoffs more exciting and at the same time made player safety a priority. Extra points. Like the NFL, a touchdown in the XFL is worth 6 points. However, the extra point after is completely different. The teams have options. They can either go for 1 point from the 2-yard line, 2 points from the 5-yard line, or 3 points from the 10-yard line. This obviously increases the scoring possibilities and makes that extra point way more interesting and strategic. There's no option to kick though. The teams have to strategize and come up with certain plays that work well in short distance situations. They really have to earn their extra points. Here's a little trivia for you. If I asked you what percentage of extra points were made in the NFL, what do you think the number would be? Would it be surprising to you to know that 95% of extra point attempts in the NFL are successful, with some teams having a 100% conversion rate for the season? The success rate of extra point attempts in the XFL is only 37%. Keep that one in your back pocket in case you ever come up with trivia. Overtime. In the XFL, if a game requires overtime, each team gets 5 one-play possessions, all of which start at the 5-yard line. Each successful attempt is worth 2 points. The team with the most points at the end of those 5 attempts is the winner. In case there is a tie at the end of those 5 attempts, they move to a sudden death shootout until one team doesn't score and the game is over. On the other hand, the NFL uses a 10-minute overtime period where each team must possess or have the opportunity to possess the ball. There is, however, an exception. If the team that gets the ball first scores a touchdown on their opening possession, the game is over. Otherwise, both teams have the opportunity to score. Whoever has the most points at the end of that 10-minute period wins. If a winner isn't determined after the first overtime period, they move into sudden death, where the game ends on any score, a safety, field goal, or touchdown. I believe the overtime rules of the XFL are more competitive and aimed at giving the viewer a more exciting end to a tied game. Chapter 3. The Spectator Experience. While I believe the rule differences between the XFL and the NFL warrant the XFL being the superior league, I think the spectator experience is the main reason why the XFL will ultimately overtake the NFL in popularity. The XFL will create a better spectator experience by giving the viewers total access. One thing that McMahon knew how to do was put on a show. Learning from his experience at WWE, he ensured that the XFL Game Day provided a comprehensive entertainment experience to the fans. I believe the new owners will take what Vince McMahon sought to build and actually make it successful. They will provide things like in-game player and coach interviews. They'll have microphones strategically placed all over the field. For example, they will have a microphone in a player's helmet to pick up their reaction right after a play. They'll also have extended pre-game and post-game coverage and make it way more entertaining for the viewers sitting at home. Their ability to provide live and unedited reviews of major plays has also helped build the reputation of the XFL as a more transparent league, where nothing is kept hidden from the fans. The viewers can hear everything that's being said about every play, and I think fans appreciate the transparency and feel like they are more involved in the game. I think this is what will ultimately win over NFL fans to become XFL fans. Chapter 4. Reasonable salaries. Let's also talk about some of these ridiculous contracts that are signed. Some of the NFL superstars have extraordinarily huge salaries, and many have attitudes to match their salaries. I don't know about you guys, but I think it's a little excessive. In my opinion, the XFL players are not overpaid for what they do, and do it more for the love of the game. Of course, there are some who are hoping to get noticed by an NFL scout and make it big in the NFL, and I guess you could also argue that the guys in the XFL just couldn't hack it in the NFL, but guys like Landry Jones from the Steelers, Jazz Ferguson from the Seahawks, and Tyree Jackson from the Buffalo Bills, just to name a few, are choosing to exit the NFL to play in the XFL. In total, in the 2020 season, there are 16 NFL players who have chosen to leave the NFL to play in the XFL. I think that speaks volumes for the potential of the league. While the XFL teams pay the players reasonably well, their salaries are nowhere close to that of those in the NFL. Quarterbacks are the highest paid players in the XFL, and they can expect to get paid as much as $495,000 each season. The average player's salary in the XFL is much lower at around $55,000 a season. You have to remember this is just for the season, and I argue that's pretty good pay. With a 10-week regular season, that's over $5,000 a game. The XFL may not give the players and the coaches as much recognition or wealth as the NFL gives, at least for now. However, it does provide them with a second chance to become a household name. Over time, as viewership and popularity of the XFL increases, the players are sure to gain fame and would expect that with more recognition. Their pay would increase as well. Let's be honest, the XFL still has a long way to go before it's more popular than the well-established NFL. However, I believe that under its new leadership, with rules that just make sense, players who are playing for the love of the game and an overall better spectator experience, the XFL has what it takes to overtake the NFL in popularity by 2030. I know that many of you may not agree with me, and that's okay. I'd love to hear what you think, so leave me a comment below, even if you completely disagree. Regardless of where your loyalties lie, the next few years are going to be very exciting for football fans. It'll be interesting to see how well the XFL stacks up against the NFL. We want to thank you guys for watching the video and sticking with us to the very end. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon below. Also, don't forget to check back in on Mondays because we'll be dropping another interesting story every week, right here on Mogul Monday.